Off-road racing has been kind of a family deal for a long time. My father, who moved us from Canada in the 60s to the United States, was working at a Volkswagen dealership, and through the Volkswagen dealership he met another mechanic who had an off-road car and they wanted to go race the Baja 500. I think that was 1967. So I was 4 at the time, didn't even know what it was that we were doing, but kind of grew up around it. He continued to off-road race through the 70s and the 80s, and in my teenage years I was working with him on some of his race cars and kind of wanted to be like him, be a driver and be famous and work on cars and build engines and stuff like that. We've been around the Mint 400 for a long time. Fritz won it in 71 and 72 overall back-to-back. First guy to do that in a high jumper, which was a company that Bill Harkey Sr. owned and Fritz worked for. They built their own chassis. And then later on, Fritz had an amazing relationship with KJ Howe, still does to this day. Rob was semi-famous when I went to work for Walker Evans, and he was driving a 7S for Walker and also driving the Stadium Super Truck. And my first professional job in motorsports was working for Walker Evans, prepping the truck for Rob Mack.
In 1986 and 87, I raced for Michael Gaughan, who sponsored Walker Evans, and through that relationship, Walker Evans hired me and I went to work there driving short course trucks in the Mickey Thompson series and desert trucks. Anyways, that's Kevin and I's first knowledge of each other and working together. And in 2009, I think it was, I ended up approaching Kevin and talking to him about doing my motors again, and I ended up taking him to lunch and talking about everything, and we sat down and we didn't know where it was really going to go, but he said, hey, you're not going to know unless you try it. So I knew Kevin's shop was second to none at that time, and the year prior to that, when Steve Menzies was starting his own team, and he said, hey, where do we go for motors? And I go, there's only one choice really in my mind right now, and that's Kevin Kroyer.
Rob wasn't the GOAT at that time, but was looking like he was going to be the GOAT at some point, and actually he got fired while there, and he says it's probably the best thing that ever happened to him because he was able to go watch the stadium races and figure out exactly what he was doing wrong. I was too much of a novice as a crew chief to understand what he might not be doing correctly. Walker was obviously busy racing his own car, and Rob was trying to learn his driving chops.
The history Kroyer has with not only off-road racing but other avenues of automotive racing is incredible. He's been around, he's learned a lot, and for me, I take racing very seriously. The amount of trust we have with Kroyer, if you really look at our truck, we've brought in a lot of things in-house, we've redone a lot of things ourselves, and when it comes down to it, our race truck is McMillan and Kroyer powered. It's both of us, it's our two teams, it's our prep team, and then it's his drivetrain that really comes together, and with those two teams, it's pretty unbeatable in my opinion because of the details he puts into his work matches and mirrors what we do here at McMillan.
Luke is like a young Rob. Second most inquisitive driver I have is Luke McMillan. Rob's the most inquisitive. These guys are putting every waking moment worth of thought into what they're going to do at the next race. And typically that leads to the next race and the next race.
Kevin Kroyer has the same detail-oriented, systematic way of looking at things that we do at McMillan Racing to really ensure our success and ensure that we're going to go to a race. And again, the driver doesn't need to think about this or that braking. He doesn't need to think about the motor and gears and all that kind of stuff in the middle of the race. He's got to be able to supply me a package that I can go and race as hard as I need to without thinking about the drivetrain, but putting my head down to go race and to be confident that we have the most reliable drivetrain possible.
I mean, there's a lot of parts of the vehicle that are very important besides the engine or the powertrain that we're involved with. We have experience, a lot of experience out in the desert, a lot of experience at a lot of races. You can question my intelligence, but probably can't question my experience. Been working with a lot of different teams over the years, and tires are definitely one of the things that will make or break your race. Used to be you were a transmission change away from winning a race, now you're a flat tire away from winning a race. Obviously, in order to win any race, you have to finish that race first. And finishing racing trophy trucks, short course, but trophy trucks especially, used to be separated by hours. Now it's separated by minutes. So a flat tire can end your race. We've worked on our powertrain to obviously be reliable, to be able to go 1,000 miles. BF Goodrich has had that same passion in working on their tires. They were one of the first outside companies that we worked with through our drivers that recognized our data acquisition ability and pushed TPMS, tire pressure monitoring systems, to the trophy truck industry. I think going to the races and chasing, being there, being involved, communicating with the teams, making sure that everybody is okay, is just part of the passion of wanting to win races. I don't have an accurate count. I think we've won SCORE overall points championship 8 or 9 times. Individual class champions trophy truck, I think 9 times. We've won the Baja 1000 8 or 9 times in trophy truck and half a dozen times in class 1. Best in the Desert championships, there's 6 or 7 of those. Vegas to Reno wins, a lot of those. Mint 400 8 times, I believe, overall since the resurrection of the Mint 400. We like to win races. That's what we strive for. Yeah, so it's crazy. I mean, it's 400 miles, it's 8 hours of racing, it's brutal desert, and you'd think that would be an endurance challenge. And it is an endurance challenge. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. There used to be guys that would drive just fast enough to finish the race and hopefully win. Now there's a group of guys out there that are battling, and they're battling every mile. They're going as fast and as hard as they possibly can. I think it was last year's Mint 400, the top 3 were covered by a blanket. And any one of those guys could have won or lost that race. We were lucky enough to be with Luke McMillan and win the race, and that was a misfortune of somebody else.
Luke McMillan takes the checkered flag here.